schließen werde, weiß ich nicht. Aber dass die Partei weiterleben wird, das weiß ich. Und dass über alle Personen, über Schwache und Starke hinweg, die Zukunft der deutschen Nation erfolgreich gestalten wird, das glaube ich und das weiß ich.
Stalingrad, directed by Joseph Vilsmeyer, is a reasonably accurate, factual depiction of the eponymous World War II battle from the German perspective. It challenges the common perception that the Allies were the good guys and all Germans were malicious. Rather, many Germans were not aware of Hitler's evil intentions. They simply wanted something to believe in, no matter what it entailed. The movie is historically accurate in the sense that the majority of the historical claims it makes are backed up. However, while nearly all the facts given in the film are accurate, not all is said. Like all films, some facts need to be omitted to present an engaging story. That is why it is all the more impressive that this film makes every effort to stick to the absolute facts and succeeds. After suffering defeat in World War I, Germany was forced to sign the Treaty of Versailles in 1919. It effectively banned the existence of a German military. However, after Hitler came to power, he defied the Treaty of Versailles and plunged the world into World War II. Germany under Hitler was allied with the USSR for a period of time. However, Hitler began to look at the USSR as weak, so he invaded Russia on June 22nd of 1941. Germany successfully conquered large swaths of Russian territory until they were halted at the Battle of Stalingrad in August of 1942. The Soviets resisted the German advance, and the Germans had no winter uniforms because they did not believe it would take so long to seize control. This was the first time Germans had been stopped, and the battle proves to be the turning point of the war in Russia. The movie represents the battle accurately. For example, in the film, we hear Hitler's Stalingrad speech, where he gives his motives for invasion. These are for the endless amounts of oil and lucrative trade from the city.
Eine bestimmte Stadt, zufälligerweise trägt sie den Namen von Stalin selber, aber denken Sie wohl, dass ich deswegen dort losmarschiert bin. Die könnte auch ganz anders heißen, sondern nur, weil dort ein ganz wichtiger Punkt ist. Dort schneidet man nämlich 30 Millionen Tonnen Verkehr ab. Darunter fast 9 Millionen Tonnen Öl.
Sources like History.com and Jewish Virtual Library have transcriptions of Hitler's Stalingrad speech, and they prove to be the same as the one in the movie. Another instance where we see factual accuracy is at the end of the movie when statistics of the battle are listed. I quote, "In the Battle of Stalingrad, more than 1 million people were killed in action, froze to death, or died of starvation. Of the 260,000 surrounded men of the Sixth Army, 91,000 of them were taken prisoner, of whom only 6,000 returned to their homeland years later." This is confirmed by many historical sources, such as History.com. History.com says that von Paulus held out until January 31st, 1943, when he finally surrendered. Of more than 280,000 men under Paulus's command, half were already dead or dying, about 35,000 had been evacuated from the front, and the remaining 91,000 were hauled off to Soviet POW camps. However, this movie's purpose is not to portray the facts about World War II. It is an honest attempt to connect the viewer to individual people rather than to Germany as a whole. Some of the people we empathize with in the movie are Lieutenant Hans von Witzlen, Fritz, and Otto. Early in the movie, Hans von Witzlen explains why the war gives purpose to his life.
Mein Leben ist plötzlich ganz Aufgabe, Ziel. Du weißt, wie viel es mir Lüge war. Ich weiß den Kummer, den du meinetwegen hattest. Aber mit jedem Meter näher zur Front verfliegt meine ach so viel gehasste Melancholie.
However, by the end of the movie, all of his war morale is lost. German officials' poor treatment of his fellow soldiers makes Witzland realize how worthless this war has become. Therefore, he says that he no longer feels bounded by his oath.
Ich fühle mich an meinen Eid nicht mehr gebunden.
At first, Witzland was eager to find meaning in a part of something every human feels the need to do. However, after uncovering the truth of the war, Witzland's eagerness to serve his country has faded. This is a sense of betrayal that anyone can understand and empathize with. Another character that we can empathize with is Fritz. Fritz's fellow soldier is crying when Fritz tries and comforts him in any way that he can. He speaks to him and says,
Sei froh, dass du noch flennen kannst. Nur bei guter Schmierung läuft der Motor.
Fritz's constant urge to be optimistic, even in a time as horrible as World War II, makes him a sympathetic character. By the end of the battle, however, Fritz's sense of sanity vanishes. After a soldier gets shot and wounded, Fritz and his group rush the soldiers to the nearest hospital, where Fritz threatens to kill his own medics if they do not assist them immediately. This is a point in the movie where the emotional connection with Fritz becomes very strong. The traumatic war experience has stripped Fritz of even core aspects of his personality. I can only imagine how traumatic it was for him to see his friends die every single day of the war. Similar to Fritz's transformation, Otto also has his turning point, but his is in much more of a justified way. After being stranded and abused by a German captain, Otto snaps and shoots him. Otto shooting his own captain can be looked at as unheard of. However, Otto and his peers have decided that fighting for Germany is something they no longer feel the need to do. They agree that surviving with each other is far more important. Otto killing his own captain is one of the many crucial choices that the characters make in the film. Choices such as this one increase tension and allow viewers to understand the dilemmas that characters find themselves in. This represents a major shift in how Germans view their superiors, who support Hitler. In the beginning of the movie, we saw soldiers risk their lives for the German cause. However, as we see now, the cause has lost its meaning. The passion has been replaced by anger and hatred for the inept leadership. Another difficult situation presented by the film highlights the film's ability to let the viewer understand even the most painful decisions made by those fighting the war. In order for Captain Hauptmann Haller to remind the troops which side they are fighting for, he orders Lieutenant Hans von Witzland and his men to kill a group of innocent Russians. After some argument with the captain, Witzland has no choice but to stay silent as his men carry out the orders. Although it can be argued that Witzland could have stopped the situation, he had no choice but to allow it to happen, to preserve his own life and the lives of his men. The captain made it very clear that not obeying his orders would result simply in execution. Although it is very clear that the director of the movie wants us to empathize with certain characters, a lot can be understood from those who we do not empathize with. For example, General Hens. He puts his own soldiers under arrest for trying to save their friend from dying. He is too caught up with following orders and regulations and forgets the human aspect of war. Another character that we cannot empathize with is the German official Hermann. Here's a conversation Hermann and Otto had.
Haben wir was anderes verdient? Ich bin kein Nazi, Otto. Nein. Ihr seid viel schlimmer, ihr Offiziersgesocks. Ihr habt mitgemacht, obwohl ihr gewusst habt, mit wem ihr euch einlasst. Ich hab's dir doch schon damals in Brest-Litovsk gesagt.
Hermann is trying to look innocent of the crime, but he was the one that stayed quiet and allowed it all to happen. Someone who stays quiet is just as guilty as a conspirator. Throughout the whole movie, Joseph Vilsmeyer made sure to include some key and essential themes. By carefully creating empathy with specific characters, who might normally be the bad guys in the situation because of whom they're fighting for, the director discusses the importance of responsibility over the importance of following orders, and additionally, the value of human life in desperate circumstances. These aspects come together to show that history is not one-sided. By showing that many Germans were victims as well, this film goes against the traditional Western narrative that tells us that the Allied powers were the only victims of World War II, and the people of Germany, fighting for Germany, were the perpetrators. This, along many other common Western narratives, portrayed Germans as the attackers and the Soviets as the victims. However, as we see in the movie, not all Germans were evil. This movie highlights the complexity of World War II and history as a whole by being historically accurate throughout the movie and by showing a perspective Westerners are not accustomed to seeing. However, while the film is factually accurate and provides another view of history, it does not give the whole story. It leaves out the fact that many more Russians died who can arguably be seen as harmless. While this movie provides a powerful look at the lives of those who were forced to fight for the wrong side, we cannot ignore their victims.